On the day of the grand wedding, Suonas shook the heavens. Yet I was abandoned in the bridal sedan, right in front of the general's manor, by my husband. He was going to chase after that white moonlight, who had left the capital in a huff. In my previous life, I endured the humiliation and married into a cold, loveless home, finally dying in loneliness and resentment. Reborn in this life, I threw off my veil, tore up the marriage contract, and shouted in front of a city full of guests. Since the bridal sedan is empty, this marriage is over. I sat upright in the bridal sedan, the phoenix crown pressing tight against my scalp, the veil hanging down, leaving nothing but a blinding red before my eyes. Me fingertips clutched the hem of my skirt, nails almost digging into the flesh, not out of nervousness, but hate. In my previous life, it was right at this moment. The bridal sedan chair had reached the entrance of the general's manor, and the husband who was supposed to open the sedan door to receive me, General Liu Zhanting, the defender of the state, unexpectedly vaulted onto his horse, snapped the reins, and leaving only the words urgent matters at hand. "I'll make it up another day," charged out of the city with his personal guards. The whole city was in an uproar, and the sounds of gossip pricked like needles. My mother's eyes reddened on the spot, and the faces of the Shen family relatives turned pale. But how could we show even the slightest defiance against a marriage bestowed by the emperor? I could only grit my teeth and swallow the bitterness. Supported by the wedding matron as I went through the ceremony all alone, marrying into a general's manor that was as cold as an ice cellar. In the years that followed, Liu Zhanting only had eyes for his white moonlight. Liu Ru, who had left the capital in a fit of anger, while he treated me with complete indifference. The concubines in the backyard provoked me, the servants slighted me, and I suffered endless grievances. Finally, my pent-up depression turned into illness. Lying on the cold bed, listening to the news of him welcoming Liu Ru back with infinite glory. He died full of resentment, without even getting a sip of hot soup. Living a new life, I absolutely won't repeat the same mistakes. Crash! The bridal sedan chair jerked to a stop in front of the general's manor. The sound of the Suonas came to a screeching halt, and the clamor outside died down a bit. Clearly, what was bound to come has come. I held my breath and listened. Sure enough, I heard the sound of sharp gasps from the crowd, followed immediately by whispering, chaotic and ear-piercing. "Isn't that General Liu? Why is he riding away?" On the day to fetch the bride, the groom ran off. "This girl from the Shen family is just too pitiful." I heard the general went to chase after Miss Liu. She is the one he holds dearest in his heart. Every word, every sentence was exactly the same as in my previous life. The wedding matron panicked and whispered advice from outside the sedan. "Madam, don't worry. The general surely has urgent business. Let's wait a little longer." Wait? I've waited a whole lifetime. Enough. I raised my hand, fingertips touching the edge of the heavy veil. With a firm tug, he yanked the veil right off. In the bronze mirror, my brows and eyes were sharp. Lips crimson, the phoenix crown and bridal robes made me look striking and bold, without a single trace of the cowardice from my previous life. The wedding matron turned pale with fright and hurriedly reached out to stop me. "My lady, you mustn't. There is no rule that says a bride can lift her own veil." I ignored her, lifted the carriage curtain, and walked straight off the bridal sedan. Instantly, the whole venue fell silent. All eyes gathered on me. Shock, scrutiny, sympathy, mockery, all sorts stinging my eyes, yet also making my blood boil. Liu Zhanting was indeed on his horse, dressed in a full red wedding outfit, but with not a shred of a groom's joy. His face was full of urgency, and he was just about to ride off. Hearing the commotion, he looked back at me. There was no guilt in his eyes, only impatience, as if I were delaying his important business of chasing someone. The relatives and friends of the general's manor nearby were panicked. Old Madame Liu's face was livid. She pointed at Liu Zhanting, wanting to scold him, but constrained by the full house of guests, she could only hold it in, shaking all over. The Shen family members were even more furious, clenching their fists. My brother, Shen Lai, stepped forward, glaring ruthlessly at Lu Zhanting, looking as if he were about to rush up and fight him. I walked to the front of the crowd, my gaze sweeping over the guests before landing on Lu Zhanting. My voice was clear and forceful, ensuring everyone present could hear. General Lu, the bridal sedan is at the door, yet the groom abandons it to chase someone. Is this act showing no respect for the Shen family? Or do you not take this imperially bestowed marriage seriously? Lu Zhanting frowned, his tone perfunctory. Shen Qing, this has nothing to do with you. Liu Ru is frail, and it is dangerous to leave the capital. I must go after her. We'll talk about the wedding later. Talk about it later. I laughed, my laughter filled with mockery. General Liu, you certainly are carefree. But we daughters of the Shen family are not objects to be summoned and dismissed at your whim. And this 10-mile red dowry is not a plaything for your amusement. As the words fell, the crowd exploded into an uproar, the chatter becoming louder than before. Well said. The Shen girl has backbone. General Liu is way out of line. This is clearly bullying. You dare neglect a marriage bestowed by the emperor like this. Aren't you afraid the emperor will punish you? Lu Zhanting's face darkened, and his tone turned a few degrees colder. Shen Qing, stop being so unreasonable. This marriage was decreed by the emperor. It is not up to you to make a scene. Fooling around. I stepped forward, looking him straight in the eye, and enunciated every word with iron resolve. Since the bridal sedan is empty, this marriage is done. From this day forth, the engagement between me, Shen Qing, and you, Lu Zhanting, is void. We have no further ties. The moment these words came out, the entire venue fell into a deathly silence. Everyone's eyes went wide with shock, forgetting even to breathe. Old Madame Lu staggered a step, barely keeping her footing, and pointed at me, her voice trembling. You, what nonsense are you spouting? An imperial marriage decree. How can you just annul it on a whim? Why can't I? I turned my head to look at old Madame Lu, tone calm, yet carrying an unquestionable firmness. The groom abandoned his wife in public, losing his virtue first. It is only reasonable that I, Shen Qing, am unwilling to marry such a heartless and unjust man. Furthermore, the emperor bestowed this marriage hoping for harmony between our two families, not to let my Shen family suffer such a great humiliation. I will personally write to the emperor to explain the reasons for this matter, and I absolutely will not implicate anyone else. With that, I looked back at the dowry procession brought by the Shen family behind me and announced loudly, this 10-mile red dowry was originally the gift for my marriage into the Lu family. Now that the engagement is void, let it be the assets for when I marry someone else. Carry it back. The Shen family servants had long been holding back a bellyful of anger. Hearing this, they responded immediately, swiftly packing up the red dowry, lifting the boxes, and turning to leave without the slightest hesitation. Lu Zhanting finally panicked. He didn't expect me to be so resolute. He hurriedly dismounted and stepped forward to stop me. Shen Qing, don't be impulsive. It was my fault. I apologize to you. Let the wedding continue, okay? No need. I turned sideways to dodge his hand, my gaze icy. General Lu's heart belongs to Liu Ru. So what is the use of keeping me? Our paths are different, and we cannot make plans together. From now on, let us go our separate ways, having nothing to do with each other. My brother Shen Lai walked quickly to my side, stood protectively in front of me, and glared at Lu Zhanting, his tone ruthless. Lu Zhanting, my sister said it. The engagement is void. If you know what is good for you, stop pestering her. Otherwise, don't blame me for getting rough. Lu Zhanting looked at the determination in my eyes, then at the mocking gazes of the surrounding guests. His face turned green, then pale, looking utterly wretched. He wanted to lash out, but knowing he was in the wrong and fearing the Shen family would hold him accountable, he could only stand frozen in place, his fingers clenched white, utterly mortified. Voices rose and fell in the crowd, all criticizing Lu Jianting and praising my toughness. Those gazes landed on Lu Jianting like knives, cutting him until he had nowhere to hide his shame. Old Madame Lu was trembling all over with anger, clutching her chest. She almost passed out, but was hurriedly supported by the servants. I stopped looking at Lu Jianting's wretched state, turned and walked to my mother's side, touched her red-rimmed eyes and whispered, "Mom, I am fine. This marriage, it is better off not happening." My mother nodded, choking back sobs, and held my hand, her eyes full of heartache. "Okay, no marriage. Let's go home." Leaving the general's manor, the 10 miles of red dowry followed grandly behind us, ironically becoming the most flamboyant spectacle in the capital. The commoners followed on both sides of the procession, the sound of their chatter endless, and their gazes toward me turned from pity to admiration. The Shen girl is truly dashing. If it were me, I would have passed out from crying ages ago. General Liu is such a scumbag, passing up such a good girl just to go chase that Liu Ru. I heard Liu Ru was kicked out of the general's manor back in the day. But look at this now. The general dares to slight even an imperial marriage for her. I rode on the horse prepared beforehand. Phoenix crown, unremoved, red makeup still fresh, meeting everyone's gaze, my back held perfectly straight. In my previous life, I was most afraid of people pointing fingers, but now I feel that the justice in these gazes is 100 times better than the fake warmth of the inner courtyard. Just as I arrived at the gate of the Shen Manor, a eunuch from the palace arrived, announcing the decree in a shrill voice. The emperor has a decree, summoning Shen Qing to enter the palace immediately to meet his majesty. Sure enough, with such a big matter, the emperor couldn't possibly sit back and ignore it. I comforted my parents, took off the heavy phoenix crown, changed into a simple and elegant dress, and followed the eunuch to the palace. Before leaving, my brother Shen clutched my hand. "Sister, don't be afraid. I am here. If the emperor blames you, I'll take the fall for you." I smiled. "Brother, don't worry. I haven't done anything wrong, so what is there to fear?" Inside the Golden Throne Hall, the atmosphere was solemn. The emperor sat high on the dragon throne, his face grave. Below stood the civil and military officials, and Lu Jianting was among them. He had already changed into ordinary clothes, but still looked a bit disheveled. Seeing me enter, his gaze was complicated. There was anger, resentment, and a trace of panic that was hard to detect. "Your subject, Shen Qing, greets the emperor. Long live, my emperor. Long live, long live." I knelt and bowed, my voice calm, neither servile nor overbearing. "Rise." The emperor's voice carried authority. "Shen Qing, do you know your crime? How can an imperially bestowed engagement be annulled? Just like that, you publicly refused the marriage. Where does that leave the royal family's dignity?" I stood up and raised my head, looking straight at the emperor, and replied calmly, "Your Majesty, what crime have I committed? The foundation of a betrothal lies in mutual affection and respect. On the day of the grand wedding, General Liu abandoned his wife to chase a concubine, losing his virtue first. This act not only humiliated me, but also slighted the marriage bestowed by the imperial family. If I were to swallow the insult and marry into the Liu family, that would be condoning a man of lost virtue and failing your Majesty's painstaking intentions." "You are talking nonsense," Lu Jianting immediately retorted. "Liu Ru isn't a concubine. She is the love of my life. What happened that day was out of desperation. I didn't mean to slight the imperial family, and certainly didn't mean to humiliate Shen Qing." "Love of your life?" I sneered, my gaze sharp as a knife. "General Liu's true love, does it mean getting you to cast your emperor-bestowed wife aside on your wedding day, to trample the Shen family's face underfoot, to let the whole city treat the Shen family as a joke, and turn the royal marriage into a laughingstock? General Liu, your true love is simply too selfish, and your affection is just too cheap." You. Lu Zhanting was rendered speechless by my retort, his face flushing bright red. He wanted to explode, but with the emperor present, he had to forcefully hold it in. That look on his face was even more painful than getting a beating. The officials whispered among themselves, casting glances of dissatisfaction at Lu Zhanting. General Qinyue stepped forward and said, "Your Majesty, this subject believes Miss Shen is absolutely right. General Lu's behavior is indeed improper. An imperial marriage concerns the dignity of the state. How can it be turned a blind eye to for the sake of personal feelings? If not severely punished, I fear the public will not be convinced." Other officials also chimed in agreement. General Qin speaks reason. General Lu lost his virtue first. Miss Shen's refusal to marry is reasonable and fair. Lu Zhanting trembled with rage, yet couldn't find a reason to argue back, so he could only look pleadingly at the emperor. "Your Majesty, this subject knows his mistake, but my feelings for Liu Ru are sincere. I beg your Majesty to grant our wish." The emperor's expression darkened further, and he snorted coldly. "Grant your wish? How do you expect me to do that? By condoning your disregard for the royal marriage. By condoning your humiliation of the descendant of a loyal subject. Lu Zhanting, as the Zhengguo general, you should prioritize the country, not romantic entanglements. Now you have neglected public duty for private emotion, lost the dignity of a general, and chilled the hearts of the officials." As he spoke, the emperor looked at me, his tone softening a few degrees. "Shen Qing, you did right in this matter. You truly have the backbone your father had back in the day. The Lu family has lost its virtue, so be it if the engagement is annulled. However, since you publicly rejected the marriage, I fear people will gossip in the future. Do you have any plans?" My heart leaped with joy, knowing the emperor was tacitly consenting to the annulment, and I hurriedly knelt to offer my thanks. "Thank you, your Majesty, for your clear judgment. Your subject seeks neither wealth nor glory, only a life of clear conscience. In the future, I wish to follow my father's example and serve the country, even if it means guarding the frontier. I will have no regrets." As these words came out, the whole court was shocked. A woman willing to guard the frontier in the great Yan dynasty. This was unprecedented. Lu Zhanting's eyes widened even further, as if he dared not believe his own ears. "Shen Qing, are you crazy? A woman guarding the border? That is simply a fantasy." "A fantasy?" I looked up at him, my eyes full of mockery. "Why can't I do what General Lu does? If you can abandon a marriage for private feelings, I can guard the border for my home and country. It is certainly better than some people who take the country's salary yet only know of romance, disregarding the greater good of the nation." A glint of appreciation flashed in the emperor's eyes, and he nodded. "Good, you have ambition. Since you have this mindset, we shall grant your wish. From this day forth, you will temporarily enter the Ministry of War for training and assist General Qin with military affairs. If you make achievements, we will reward you further." "Thank you, your Majesty." I kowtowed again in thanks, my heart surging with excitement. In my previous life, I was trapped in the inner courtyard, only able to watch Lu Zhanting achieve greatness. Now, I finally have the chance to walk out of that cage and live out my value with my own abilities. Lu Zhanting looked at me, his face turning green and then white, utterly mortified. He thought I'd be crying and begging the emperor to give me justice, or that I'd never pick myself up again. But he never expected that not only would I get out unscathed, I'd also win the emperor's appreciation and step into the Ministry of War, the very place he took such pride in. The look in the official's eyes turned from shock to admiration. For a woman to turn the tables in such a desperate situation, that kind of guts and boldness is truly impressive. As I left the Jinluan Hall, I brushed past Lu Zhanting. He lowered his voice, his tone sinister. "Shen Qing, don't get too cocky just yet. The Ministry of War is no place for a woman. Let's see just how long you can last." I didn't stop walking, replying indifferently. No need for General Lu to trouble himself. I can naturally see how far I can go much clearer than you. You, on the other hand, General Lu had better think hard about how to explain that true love of yours to the Emperor." Seeing Lu Zhanting's defeated look, I felt incredibly thrilled. This is just the beginning. What he owed me in the last life, I will take back bit by bit, with interest. Back at the Shen Manor, my parents and brother were already waiting at the door. Learning that I was not only okay, but had also won the Emperor's appreciation and entered the Ministry of War for training. The whole family was excited beyond belief. My mother held my hand, her eyes reddening. "My daughter, you've finally made it." My brother Shenlai laughed heartily. "Good sister, you've made us proud. From now on, who would dare bully our Shen family?" I smiled and nodded, but I knew clearly in my heart that this was just the first step. Training at the Ministry of War would surely be fraught with difficulties. Lu Zhanting would definitely not let things rest. And there was also that Liu Ru hiding in the background, who would sooner or later jump out to stir up trouble. But I am not afraid. The cowardice and forbearance of my past life had already vanished, like smoke with that abandoned wedding. In this life, I, Shen Qing, am brave and resourceful. With the Shen family as my shield, and the Emperor's appreciation, I will surely carve out a world of my own in this male-dominated world. That night, I packed my bags, and early the next morning, I went to the Ministry of War on time to report for duty. As soon as I arrived at the entrance of the Ministry of War, I saw a group of officials gathered together whispering. When they saw me enter, they immediately quieted down, their eyes full of scrutiny and disdain. "Is this that Shen Qing who publicly rejected the marriage? I heard the Emperor sent her to the Ministry of War for training. What does a woman know about military affairs? She probably got in through the back door, right? After all, the Shen family is a lineage of generals." I pretended not to hear, walked straight to General Qinyue's study door, knocked, and reported. "Subject Shen Qing, reporting for duty. Come in, General Qinyue." I pushed the door open and entered, only to see General Qinyue sitting at the desk reviewing documents. He looked up at me, his gaze sharp. "Shen Qing, do you know the Ministry of War has strict rules? It is not like the inner quarters. The slightest carelessness can lead to a major disaster. You, a woman, why do you insist on coming to this Ministry of War to suffer?" "General," I said seriously, "I am not acting on impulse. My father taught me that, as a descendant of a military family, I must place the nation first. Though I am a woman, I also wish to contribute to the country. I do not want to be just a daughter flower in the deep boudoir. As for hardship, I am not afraid. As long as I can serve the country, no matter how bitter or tiring, I do so willingly." A hint of approval flashed in General Qinyue's eyes, and he nodded. "Good. You have your father's bearing. In that case, I'll give you a chance. Starting today, follow me to handle official documents and familiarize yourself with military affairs. Remember, in the Ministry of War, we look only at ability, not gender, and certainly not background. If you do a poor job, even if the Emperor protects you, I will still send you back home." "Thank you, General. I definitely won't let the General down." I bowed solemnly. In the days that followed, I settled in at the Ministry of War to gain experience. I got up before dawn every day and didn't rest until late at night, reviewing documents, organizing military reports, and studying the art of war. It was hard work, but I felt incredibly fulfilled. Those officials who looked down on me at first gradually changed their attitude. After seeing my speed and precision with the paperwork, and they stopped gossiping so freely. However, just as I expected, Lu Zhanting had no intention of letting me off. That day, I was organizing a border military report when I suddenly heard the sound of an argument outside. I went out to look and saw Lu Zhanting pointing at my subordinate, scolding him furiously. "You dare make a mistake on such an important military report. If this compromises military matters, can you bear the responsibility?" The subordinate was scared pale and hurriedly knelt on the ground to beg for mercy. "General, spare my life. I didn't do it on purpose." I frowned and walked forward. "General Liu, what are you so angry about?" Liu Jianting turned his head to look at me. His gaze sinister. "Shen Qing, look at your subordinate. He can't even organize a military report properly. He is absolute trash. I think you have no ability to manage your subordinates at all, and you are even less qualified to stay in the Ministry of War." I picked up the military report and took a glance, discovering that only an insignificant number was written incorrectly, which wouldn't affect military matters at all. Obviously, Liu Jianting was deliberately picking a fight. I sneered. "General Lewitt is just a wrong number. Correcting it is enough. Why make such a fuss? I will naturally discipline my own subordinates, so there is no need for General Liu to worry about it. On the other hand, General Liu, instead of training troops in your own camp, you've run over to the Ministry of War to boss people around. Isn't that overstepping your bounds?" "I am overstepping?" Liu Jianting laughed out of extreme anger. "The Ministry of War belongs to the state. It is not your private turf, Shen Qing. As General Zheng Guo, I naturally have the right to supervise military affairs. Your subordinate made a mistake, and you can't shirk the responsibility. Supervising military affairs is fine, but that doesn't mean you can use it as an excuse to make things difficult." My eyes turned cold. "General Liu, if you truly care about military affairs, you should focus your mind on border defense instead of fixating on trivial matters here. If you think I haven't done a good job, go right ahead and impeach me to the emperor. No need to waste time here." The surrounding officials all gathered around, watching the scene before them, buzzing with discussion. "General Liu is obviously picking a fight on purpose. Miss Shen is right. There is absolutely no need to take such a small matter so seriously. General Liu is probably still holding a grudge against Miss Shen over the engagement, isn't he?" Hearing the whispers around him, Liu Jianting's face darkened even more. He hadn't expected that I would dare to contradict him in public and make him lose face. He wanted to lash out, but fearing he would be branded as abusing his power for personal revenge, he could only force down his anger, pointing at me and saying hatefully, "Good Shen Qing, you've got guts. Just you wait." After saying that, he stormed off in a huff, his retreating figure looking utterly pathetic. I watched his retreating figure, my eyes cold. "Liu Jianting, this is just the beginning. If you dare provoke me again, I'll definitely make you pay dearly." The subordinate hurriedly stood up, looking at me gratefully. "Thank you for saving my life, Miss Shen." "Stand up," I said indifferently. "Be more careful in the future. Don't make such mistakes again. Remember, in the Ministry of War, strength is the best backing. Only when you are strong enough will others not dare to bully you easily." "Yes, I will remember." The subordinate nodded heavily. After this incident, the officials in the Ministry of War dared not look down on me anymore. They knew that I, Shen Qing, not only had guts but also the means, and was not a pushover. Urgent report from the border. The 800 LI urgent dispatch was slammed onto the desk of the Ministry of War. The ink was still wet, and the lines reeked of gunpowder. "The Northern DI have launched a surprise attack on Yanmen Pass. Provisions have been seized. The garrison has been trapped for 3 days, requesting immediate reinforcements." General Qinye smashed his fist on the table, shaking the teacups with a clatter. "Trash! Yanmen Pass is treacherous terrain. How could you let the BD succeed?" The faces of the officials filling the room turned ghastly pale, and the sound of discussion buzzed. The BD have never dared to move troops lightly. I fear they have come prepared this time. The provisions being hijacked is a major crisis. The garrison is out of food. They can't hold on for long. Mobilizing troops for support takes at least 7 days. I am afraid it'll be too late. I squeezed my way to the desk, snatched up the military report, and scanned it quickly. In my previous life, it was this very battle of Yanmen Pass, Lu Jianting was ordered to reinforce but fell into a beady ambush, suffering heavy casualties. He only barely managed to break the siege by sacrificing 3,000 vanguards. But the true root of the disaster was a traitor within who leaked the provisions transport route. General, I raised my voice, drowning out all the discussion. This isn't an accident. It is the work of an inside traitor. The whole room went silent. General Qin Yue glared at me. Do you have any proof for that? I do. I pointed to the escort route on the military report. This route was only finalized 3 days ago. Aside from the core officials of the Ministry of War and the escort generals, no one knew about it. For the beady to intercept the grain so precisely, someone must have tipped them off. Lu Jianting had barged in at some point and sneered upon hearing this. Shenqing, what do you know? You are nothing but a little brat who just joined the Ministry of War, and you dare run your mouth about military intelligence. I turned my head to glare at him, my gaze like a knife. I don't understand. That is still better than a certain someone who fights a losing battle and doesn't know to repent. General Lu, in the previous life when you rushed to reinforce Yanmen Pass, you lost 3,000 troops. Have you forgotten? Lu Jianting's expression changed abruptly. What nonsense are you spouting? How could he believe it? He had kept the defeat in the previous life a secret, only reporting a Pyrrhic victory. General Qin Yue frowned. General Lewis, what Shenqing says true? Lu Jianting broke out in a cold sweat on his forehead, stammering and unable to speak. The surrounding officials exploded into an uproar. So General Lu actually lost the last battle. No wonder he didn't say a word about the details after coming back. How does Miss Shen know? I ignored everyone's questions and continued. General, the top priority is to root out the mole, replan the grain route, and simultaneously send light cavalry to raid the Beatty grain depot. Any later, and Yanmen Pass really won't hold. General Qin Yue made a prompt decision. Good, Shenqing. You are in charge of rooting out the mole. I'll mobilize the troops immediately to launch a surprise attack on the grain depot. Just as you said. Absolutely not. Lu Jianting jumped out to intervene. Let a woman investigate. If she delays military matters, who is going to take responsibility? I think she just wants to show off. General Lu is afraid I might find something out, aren't you? I stepped closer, my tone icy. Or are you saying the mole has something to do with you? You are spitting venom! Lu Jianting was so angry, he drew his sword. The scabbard struck the ground, making an ear-piercing sound. Stop, General Qin Yue bellowed. Lu Jianting, is this the time for infighting? Shenqing has a lead, so let her investigate. If you are not convinced, go lead the light cavalry on a surprise raid and prove yourself with battle merits. Lu Jianting's face turned pale then livid. He gave me a vicious glare, gritted his teeth, and said, Fine, I'll go, but if Shenqing can't find the mole, I'll definitely make her pay. He flung his sleeves and left, his retreating figure radiating exasperation. I sneered, turned around, and started investigating the case. First, I locked onto those who had contact with the escort route vice minister of War Lai Song, Escort General Zhang Wei, and Lu Jianting's deputy, Zhao Hu. I went to find Zhang Wei first. He had just escaped back from the border, covered in wounds, and cried the moment he saw me. Miss Shen, I really don't know what happened. It was like the beady knew our route in advance and set an ambush. The brothers fought to the death just to let me escape back to report. I stared into his eyes. After the route was confirmed, who did you have contact with? Zhang Wei thought back carefully. Besides Vice Minister Li and Vice General Zhao Hu, there was no one else. Zhao Hu even specifically asked me about the departure time and rest spots. Zhao Hu, Lu Jianting's man. I immediately led men to catch Zhao Hu, but I was a step too late. He had already packed his bags and was preparing to run. Stop him! I shouted. My subordinates immediately rushed up and pinned Zhao Hu to the ground. Zhao Hu struggled, roaring. I didn't collude with the enemy. I was framed. Whether it is a frame-up or not, we'll know after checking. I had people search his quarters, and they quickly found a secret letter and an ingot of gold. The secret letter was in Beatty script, and the translation read, grain root known. Proceed according to plan. Heavy reward to follow. Ironclad proof. Zhao Hu slumped to the ground, his face pale as death. The surrounding officials watched dumbfounded. There really is a mole. I didn't expect it to be Zhao Hu. Miss Shen is just too amazing, finding it out so quickly. Holding the secret letter, I walked up to General Qingyue. General, the witness and material evidence are all here. It is a fact. General Qinyue's face was gloomy. Interrogate Zhao Hu immediately, and find out who the mastermind is. In the interrogation room, Zhao Hu was stubborn at first. But when I took out the gold and the secret letter, and told him that if he didn't confess, his 9 generations would be executed, he broke down crying and spilled everything. It was Miss Liu Ru who made me do it. Liu Ru, I narrowed my eyes. It really was her. Miss Liu said that as long as I leaked the root and made General Liu lose a battle, the Emperor would blame General Liu, and then she could persuade General Liu to resign and run away with her. Zhao Hu cried. I wasn't thinking straight, so I agreed. Please spare my life, Miss Shen. Liu ruined my last life. I just took her for a frail and innocent white moonlight. I never expected her heart to be so vicious. For her own selfish desires, she actually colluded with the enemy and betrayed the country, harming so many soldiers. I clenched my fists, my fingernails digging into my flesh, my hatred overwhelming. Take him away and await punishment, I said coldly. Turning to walk out of the interrogation room, I bumped right into Lu Zhanting. He had just returned from outside the city, covered in dust and looking exhausted. Clearly, the surprise attack hadn't gone well. Did you find out? His tone was urgent, with a trace of barely noticeable nervousness. I threw the secret letter at him and said coldly, Look for yourself. Your precious beloved. In order to make you run away with her, colluded with the enemy, betrayed the country, and leaked the provisions route. Lu Zhanting picked up the secret letter, his face turning paler as he read, his hands trembling in disbelief. Impossible. Ruer is so kind. How could she do such a thing? You must have forged it. Forged? I laughed, my laughter full of mockery. Zhao Hu has already confessed, and the witness and material evidence are all here. Do you still want to deceive yourself? Lu Zhanting, wake up. The white moonlight you are so obsessed with is nothing but a venomous woman. The surrounding officials all gathered around, looking at the secret letter and talking amongst themselves. I never expected Liu Ru to be this kind of person. It is terrible to actually get so many soldiers killed just for the sake of a private affair. General Liu really met his downfall at the hands of a woman this time. Lu Zhanting's face was pale as paper. He staggered a step and nearly fell over. He had always thought Liu Ru was a delicate little white flower unable to fend for herself, never expecting her to be so vicious. This realization was like a heavy hammer smashing ruthlessly into his heart. I don't believe it. He rushed out like a madman. I am going to find Ruer and ask her to explain. Watching his panicked retreating figure, I felt not a shred of sympathy in my heart, only sheer delight. Liu Zhanting, your good days are over. General Qinyue walked up to me and patted my shoulder. Shenqing, well done. It is all thanks to you this time. Not only did we root out the mole, but we also saved Yanmen Pass. The Emperor will definitely reward you handsomely. You flatter me, General. I cupped my hands and said, This is what I ought to do, however. Liu Ru is still on the run. We must catch her as soon as possible to prevent her from doing anything else to harm the country. Rest assured, General Qinyue said in a deep voice, I have already sent men to seal off the city gates and search the entire city for Liu Ru. She won't get away. Sure enough, not long after, a subordinate came to report. Miss Shen, Liu Ru has been caught. She tried to leave the city in disguise but was stopped by the city gate guards. Bring her up, I said coldly. Soon Liu Rao was escorted up. She was wearing a coarse cloth dress, her hair was messy, and her face no longer held its former frailty, only panic and malice remaining. Seeing Lu Zhanting, she immediately started crying. Zhanting, save me! Shen Qing framed me. She forced Zhao Hu to falsely accuse me. Lu Zhanting looked at her, his gaze complex, holding pain, disappointment, and a trace of lingering love. Raoer, tell me, are the things in the secret letter true? Of course not. Liu Ru threw herself at him while crying, but was stopped by the guards. Zhanting, how could I betray you, betray the country? It is all Shen Qing. She is jealous of me, wants to break us up, so she set this trap, jealous of you. I stepped forward, looking down at her, my eyes cold. Lu Ru, are you even worthy? You colluded with the enemy and betrayed the country. Killed 3,000 soldiers. Your hands are covered in blood, and you still have the nerve to act innocent here. I turned my head to look at Lu Zhanting. General Lu, if you still can't see her true colors, then just wait for the Emperor's sentence along with her. Lu Zhanting looked at Lu Shu, then at the scornful looks of the officials around them, and finally came to his senses. He took a step back, looking at Lu Ru with cold eyes. You leave. From this day forth, we sever all ties and have nothing to do with each other. Lu Ru froze, looking at him in disbelief. Zhanting, how could you treat me like this? I did all these things for you. For me. Lu Zhanting gave a self-mocking laugh. I said coldly, throw her in the dungeon and await the Emperor's decision. Watching Liu Ru being dragged away, a huge weight was finally lifted off my chest. In my past life, I was ruined by this pair of scum, my family destroyed, and I died in misery. In this life, I exposed Liu Ru's true colors with my own hands, ruined her reputation, and put her behind bars. Lu Zhanting also paid the price for his stupidity, losing his true love, losing his reputation, and becoming the laughingstock of the entire capital. This feeling is so damn good. But I know this isn't enough. Liu Ru colluded with the enemy and committed treason, a heinous crime that must be severely punished. And Lu Zhanting, as her accomplice, cannot be let off easily either. Very quickly, the Emperor issued his decree. Liu Ru colluded with the enemy and committed treason. She is sentenced to immediate execution by beheading, and her body shall be exposed for 3 days as a warning to others. Zhao Hu assisted in the treason. His 3 clans shall be exterminated. Lu Zhanting was a poor judge of character and indulged his subordinates. In consideration of his past merits, he is stripped of his title as general, demoted to a commoner, and barred from entering government service for life. As soon as the decree came down, the capital was shaken. The common people clapped and cheered, saying it was truly satisfying, and I, for rooting out the insider and performing a great service, was titled Princess Jingenbai, the Emperor, rewarded with 10,000 taels of gold and 1,000 mu of fertile land, and allowed to continue my post in the Ministry of War to assist General Qin Ye with military affairs. When the news reached the Shen residence, the whole family rejoiced. My mother held my hand, crying as she said, "My daughter, you can finally hold your head high." My brother Shenlai was even more triumphant, telling everyone he met. My sister is Princess Jing'an, the first female commandery princess of the Great Yan dynasty. I stood in the courtyard of the Shen residence, watching the sunset clouds filling the sky, my heart filled with 1,000 emotions. The hatred from my past life has finally been avenged by half, but my life has only just begun. The experience in the Ministry of War has allowed me to find my own worth. I am no longer that woman of the inner chambers who relied on a man, but Princess Jing'an who can serve the country and stand on her own. However, I didn't expect that an even bigger surprise was waiting for me. On this day, I was handling official documents in the Ministry of War when the palace eunuchs came again. This time, It was the chief eunuch by the emperor's side, Eunuch Li. Eunuch Li smiled and said to me, "Princess Jing'an, the emperor invites you. And His Highness, the Crown Prince, is also waiting in the imperial garden." The Crown Prince? I was puzzled. His Highness. The Crown Prince has always lived a secluded life, devoting himself to court affairs. I have never had any dealings with him, so why would he want to see me? Filled with doubts, I followed Eunuch Li towards the imperial garden. Just as we reached the arch bridge in the imperial garden, I saw a man in a bright yellow brocade robe standing on the bridge. He had a tall, upright figure, a handsome face, a warm gaze, and an air of elegance and nobility. It was the current crown, Prince Xiao Jingyuan. Seeing me, he smiled slightly and cupped his hands, saying, "Princess Jing'an, I have heard much about you." I hurriedly knelt on the ground to pay my respects. "This subject Shenqing greets your highness, the Crown Prince. May your highness live 1,000 years, 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years. Princess, please rise." Xiao Jingyuan extended a hand in a gesture of support, his voice gentle. "I have long heard that the princess possesses extraordinary courage and wisdom. Seeing you today, your reputation is indeed well-deserved. Your highness flatters me. This subject is unworthy." I stood up, lowering my head, not daring to look directly at him. The emperor walked out from the nearby pavilion and said with a smile, "Shenqing, no need to be formal. I called you here today because I have a major matter to discuss with you." I looked up at the emperor, my confusion growing. The emperor looked at me, his eyes full of appreciation. "Shenqing, I've seen your performance in the Ministry of War. You are not only brave and resourceful, but also loyal and devoted, a rare talent. Now that the Crown Prince is acting as regent, he lacks a capable assistant by his side. I want you to enter the palace to assist the Crown Prince in handling state affairs. What do you say? Enter the palace to assist the Crown Prince." I froze, looking at the emperor in disbelief. This is a tremendous honor. So many people fight tooth and nail just to get into the palace. Yet, I surprisingly was able to gain the emperor's appreciation and assist the Crown Prince in handling state affairs. Xiao Jingyuan looked at me, his gaze gentle. "Commandery Princess, I know this is a bit sudden, but I believe in your ability. If you are willing, I will surely work together with you to create a flourishing age." I snapped back to reality and hurriedly knelt down to give thanks. "I thank the emperor for his grace. I thank your highness the Crown Prince for your trust. I will definitely devote myself entirely to my duty, until my dying breath." The emperor laughed heartily. "Good. With these words of yours, I can rest easy. From this day forth, you are the junior tutor to the Crown Prince. You shall enter the palace to assist the Crown Prince and participate in state affairs. Your subject obeys the decree." When I left the palace, I was still a bit dazed. From an abandoned bride to a female official trained in the Ministry of War, then to Princess Jing'an, and now becoming the junior tutor to the Crown Prince, assisting the Crown Prince in handling state affairs. Life in this lifetime is simply like, I've got cheats enabled. And all of this, I earned with my own 2 hands. Lu Zhanting, Lu Rudo, you see this? The me you cast aside like a worn-out shoe now, stands higher than you and sees further than you. What you owe me, I will not only take back, but I will also live 100. The day before entering the palace, I went to the general's manor. The general's manor of today has long lost its former glory. Lu Zhanting had been reduced to a commoner, his property confiscated, and he could only live in the side courtyard of the general's manor, living a destitute life. I stood at the entrance of the side courtyard, looking at that once high and mighty General Zhongguo, now wearing coarse clothes and chopping wood. His hands were covered in calluses and wounds, and his face was etched with hardship. He no longer had the spirited vigor of the past. Hearing the noise, he looked up at me. His expression complex, there was resentment, unwillingness, and a trace of shame. "What are you doing here?" His tone was icy, carrying a trace of imperceptible trembling. I looked at him and said indifferently, "I came to tell you. I am entering the palace to assist the crown prince." Lu Zhanting shuddered all over and looked at me in disbelief. What did you say?" I said, "I am now the junior tutor to the crown prince, participating in court politics." I said clearly, word for word. "And you are just a criminal demoted to a commoner." Lu Zhanting's face instantly turned deathly pale. He staggered a step, nearly falling over. He always thought that no matter how formidable I was just a woman who wouldn't amount to much. But who would have thought that I would actually be able to enter the palace to assist the crown prince, reaching heights he could never achieve in his entire life? Impossible. "This is impossible," he muttered to himself, looking like he had gone mad. I laughed with immense satisfaction. "Lu Zhanting, this is the difference between you and me. For the sake of personal feelings, you gave up everything, ending up ruined and disgraced, while I, relying on my own abilities, have walked step by step to where I am today. Back then, you discarded me like a worn-out shoe. Today, you aren't even qualified to look up at me." After saying that, I turned and left, never looking back. From behind came Lu Zhanting's desperate roar, but it could no longer affect me in the slightest. On the day I entered the palace, the sun was shining bright. Wearing the official robes of the crown prince's junior mentor, he stepped through the palace gates. Xiao Jingyuan was already waiting at the palace gate, looking at me with gentle eyes. He reached out his hand. "Junior mentor Shen, let's go. From now on, I shall walk side by side with you." I looked at his outstretched hand, hesitated for a moment, then took hold of it. His hand was warm and powerful, carrying a reassuring strength. Stepping into the Eastern Palace, the red walls and glazed tiles reflected the sunlight, dazzling the eyes. Xiao Jingyuan led me through the corridors. Along the way, palace maids and eunuchs bowed, their eyes full of awe. "From now on, this side hall of the Eastern Palace is your office." He pointed to an elegant room, speaking gently. "If you have any needs, just tell the palace servants." "Thank you, Your Highness." I cupped my hands in greeting, my gaze sweeping across the hall brush. Ink, paper, and inkstone were all present, and the shelves were filled with books on military strategy and history. It was clearly meticulously prepared. I had barely sat down for long when a few officials came knocking. Leading them was the censor-in-chief, Lord Wang, with graying hair and arrogant eyes, followed by two young officials with looks of disdain. "You are that Shen Qing?" Lord Wang glanced sideways at me, his tone laced with contempt. "Just a woman who relied on luck to root out a mole. Yet you dare to serve as the junior tutor to the crown prince? I am afraid you can't even read a memorial." The officials behind him chimed in. "Lord Wang is right. The position of junior tutor to the crown prince is of such importance. How can a woman hold it? This is simply absurd." I put down the brush in my hand, raised my eyes to look at them, my gaze cold. "Lord Wang Wen must speak based on evidence. Shen Qing can serve as the junior tutor because of the emperor's personal decree, relying on solid achievements, not luck." "Achievements?" Lord Wang sneered. "Merely finding a tiny mole is worthy of being called an achievement. This old man has served in the court for 30 years, and I have handled more major cases than you have ever seen. Is that so?" I stood up and took a step closer. "Then does Lord Wang know, during the last siege of Yanmen Pass, if I hadn't rooted out the mole in time and replanned the supply routes, what the consequences would have been? Ere the lives of 3,000 soldiers so worthless in your eyes." Lord Wang's face stiffened, and he was momentarily speechless. I continued. "Also during my training at the Ministry of War, I processed over 100 official documents, corrected over 20 erroneous military reports, and assisted General Qin in formulating defense plans 3 times. Do none of these count as merits? You—" Lord Wang was rendered speechless by my retort. his face turning alternating shades of green and white. "If you think I am unworthy, Lord Wang, you are free to impeach me to the Emperor." My tone was icy. "But before that, please respect the Emperor's decision, and respect me, the junior tutor to the Crown Prince. If you dare speak insolently again, don't blame me for not being polite." Xiao Jingyuan was standing at the door, having arrived unnoticed, his gaze dark and heavy. "Lord Wang, junior tutor Shen, was personally recommended by me. I trust her ability. From now on, please cooperate fully with junior tutor Shen's work." Seeing the Crown Prince speak, Lord Wang dared not be presumptuous anymore. He could only unwillingly cup his hands. "Your subject obeys the decree." Slunk away, Xiao Jingyuan walked in and said with a smile, "Junior tutor Shen, well done just now. In this eastern palace, one must have such an imposing air." "Your Highness flatters me," I said indifferently. "To deal with people who rely on their seniority, you can only meet force with force." In the days that followed, I devoted myself wholeheartedly to the work of assisting the Crown Prince. Xiao Jingyuan was indeed, just as the rumors said, exceedingly clever, diligent, and caring for the people, handling court affairs with perfect order. But his temperament was gentle, and sometimes he inevitably let himself be pushed around by the old ministers. And I happened to make up for his shortcomings. When I met unreasonable officials, I snapped right back. When I met with buck passing, I made the call on the spot. When I met corrupt pests breaking the law, I showed no mercy and reported them straight to the Emperor. In just one short month, relying on my decisive and vigorous style, I gained a firm foothold in the East Palace. The palace servants stood in awe of me. The officials dared not look down on me anymore, and even the Emperor praised me multiple times in court. Junior Mentor Shen is brave and resourceful, a capable assistant to the Crown Prince. This day, I was processing a memorial regarding disaster relief when I suddenly heard the sound of arguing coming from outside. Going out to look, I saw the Minister of Revenue, Lord Li, making a huge scene, yelling at Xiao Jingyuan, "Your Highness the Crown Prince, the disaster relief funds and grain must be distributed according to the old precedents. Junior Mentor Shen changing the distribution method is simply reckless nonsense." Xiao Jingyuan's brows were tightly knitted, yet he still patiently explained, "Lord Li, the old distribution method has too many loopholes and makes it easy for corrupt officials to skim off the top. Junior Mentor Shen's method ensures that the funds and grain actually get into the hands of the common people." "I don't care." Lord Li was being completely unreasonable. How can rules handed down from our ancestors be changed at the drop of a hat? Shen Qing is just a woman. What does she know about disaster relief? I think she just wants to act unconventional to make a name for herself. I stepped forward and said cold, "Lord Li, speak with your conscience." Under the old distribution practices, relief funds were skimmed at every level, and less than 30% actually reached the hands of the common people. During last year's drought, how many people starved to death because they didn't receive their relief funds? Have you forgotten all that? That was an issue with individual officials," Lord Li stammered. "Individual?" I sneered. "As far as I know, half of the officials responsible for disaster relief last year skimmed funds from it. And you, Lord Li, your own nephew, was one of them, wasn't he?" Lord Li's face changed abruptly. You are talking nonsense." Whether I am talking nonsense or not, Lord Li knows clearly in his heart. I took out a piece of evidence. This is a detailed record of last year's relief funds, and it clearly lists the amount your nephew embezzled. If Lord Li continues to make trouble unreasonably, I don't mind handing this evidence over to the Emperor. Lord Li looked at the record in my hand, trembling all over, and dared not be arrogant any longer. He knew that if this matter were exposed, he would not only lose his official position, but also implicate his entire family. You are ruthless." Lord Li gritted his teeth, but could only grudgingly cup his hands. "This subject will obey the instructions of His Highness, the Crown Prince and Junior Mentor Shen. After saying that, he slunk away, dejectedly. Xiao Jingyuan looked at me, his eyes full of appreciation. Junior Tutor Shen, you truly are my capable right hand. If it weren't for you, today's matter would have been truly hard to resolve. Your Highness flatters me. I cupped my hands and said, this is what I ought to do. However, Lord Li's nephew did indeed take bribes and bend the law. We cannot just let this slide. Rest assured, Xiao Jingyuan said in a deep voice. I have already sent people to investigate. He will certainly be punished severely without leniency. After handling the disaster relief matters, I returned to the side hall. Just as I sat down, a palace attendant came to report. Junior Tutor Shen, Her Majesty, the Empress requests your presence. The Empress? I felt puzzled. The Empress has always lived a secluded life and rarely interferes in court politics. Why did she suddenly summon me today? Filled with doubts, I followed the palace attendant to Kunning Palace. Kunning Palace was magnificent. The Empress sat upright on the phoenix throne, appearing dignified and stern, watching me with a piercing gaze. Your subject Shen Qing pays respects to your Majesty. Long live, long live, your Majesty. I knelt down to pay my respects. Rise. The Empress's voice carried an air of authority. Shen Qing, do you know your crime? My heart sank, and I looked up and said, your humble subject does not know. Please enlighten me, your Majesty. You are just a woman, yet you refuse to stay in your place. You insist on showing your face in public, entering the palace to assist the crown prince, and bringing chaos to the court. The Empress's tone was icy cold. Do you know that women interfering in state affairs is a great taboo? Your Majesty, your humble subject begs to differ. I answered calmly. In ancient times, Hua Mulan joined the army in her father's stead, and Mu Ying took command in battle. Why cannot a woman serve her country? Your subject entered the palace to assist the crown prince under the emperor's personal decree, for the sake of the nation, not to bring chaos to the court. Insolent. The Empress slammed the table and stood up. You still dare to talk back. I see you are just full of ambition, wanting to use the crown prince's power to climb your way up. Your Majesty, my heart is solely for the country. I have no other intentions. My tone was firm. If your Majesty feels I have done poorly, you are welcome to impeach me before the Emperor. There is no need to make baseless accusations here. The Empress was so angry her face turned pale, yet she could not find a reason to refute me. Just then, Xiao Jingyuan walked in and knelt to offer greetings. Your son greets, Imperial Mother. Jingyuan, you have come at the right time. The Empress pointed at me. Hurry up and drive this woman out of the palace. She is a curse. Keeping her by your side will harm you sooner or later. Xiao Jingyuan stood up, his tone gentle yet firm. Imperial Mother, Junior Mentor Shen is a rare talent. She has assisted me in handling court affairs and has earned much merit. I trust her, so please do not make things difficult for her. The Empress looked at Xiao Jingyuan, then at me, trembling with rage. Good, very good. You all are siding with outsiders. I shall see just how long this woman can remain so smug. After I finished speaking, the Empress flicked her sleeves and stormed off, leaving behind a hall full of awkwardness. Xiao Jingyuan looked at me and said, apologetically, Junior Tutor Shen, I've let you suffer a grievance. Your Highness need not apologize. I said faintly, I did not take it to heart. Although I said that, I knew clearly in my heart that the Empress already saw me as a thorn in her side. The days ahead in the palace, I am afraid, won't be so peaceful. But I am not afraid. In my previous life, I even experienced death. So what else is there to be afraid of? If the Empress wants to come after me, then let her come. I, Shen Qing, have never been a pushover for anyone to push around. Leaving Kunning Palace, Xiao Jingyuan looked at me, his eyes gentle. Junior Tutor Shen, from now on, I will protect you. My heart stirred, and I looked up at him. His gaze was sincere and steadfast, carrying a reassuring strength. "Thank you, Your Highness," I said softly. Back at the Eastern Palace, I continued handling the official documents, but my mind was racing with 1,000 thoughts. The Empress making things difficult was just the beginning. Deep within this palace, and high upon this court, countless open spears and hidden arrows still await me. But I will not back down. I will rely on my own ability to stand firm, assist the Crown Prince, and create a golden age together. Those who want to harm me, who want to stop me, just you wait. I, Shen Qing, will surely hack through the thorns and brambles, and press forward undaunted. On this day, the Emperor summoned the civil and military officials to discuss the appointment of the heir. In the royal court, the atmosphere was solemn. The Emperor looked at the officials and said in a deep voice, "I am advanced in years. Crown Prince Jingyuan has supervised the state for many years with remarkable achievements. My mind is made up. I appoint Crown Prince Jingyuan as the successor. The investiture ceremony will be held on a chosen day." The officials knelt down one after another to pay their respects. "Your Majesty is wise. Long live the successor. Long live, long live." Xiao Jingyuan knelt to thank him for the grace. "This son thanks Father Emperor for the grace. This son will definitely not fail Father Emperor's high expectations, nor the trust of the myriad people." Just then, the Empress's brother, Imperial Uncle Zhao Cheng, stood out and cupped his hands, saying, "Your Majesty, this subject objects, although His Highness the Crown Prince is outstanding, having a woman like Shen Qing assisting him will inevitably invite criticism. This subject believes the matter of appointing the heir needs further consideration." As soon as these words were spoken, the court instantly exploded into an uproar. The imperial uncle makes sense. It is indeed improper for a woman to interfere in politics. Although junior mentor Shen has merit, she is a woman after all. Staying by the successor's side sets a bad example. "Your Majesty, please reconsider." The Emperor's expression grew grave as he looked at me. "Shen Qing, what do you have to say?" I stepped out from the ranks, knelt and bowed, my voice clear and bright. "Your Majesty, this subject believes that what the imperial uncle said is sheer nonsense. This subject assists the Crown Prince for the sake of the nation, not to meddle in politics. Throughout the ages, there have been many women who served their country. Why is it that when it comes to this subject, it becomes a criticism?" I turned to look at Zhao Cheng, my tone icy. "Lord Imperial Uncle, the reason you oppose this is likely because I previously impeached your nephew for taking bribes and perverting the law, right? You are using public office to avenge a private grudge." Zhao Cheng's face changed suddenly. "You are talking nonsense. I didn't. Whether you did or not, the Emperor will know as soon as he investigates." My tone was firm. "I am willing to produce evidence proving that the Lord Imperial Uncle's nephew perverted the law for bribes, and that the Lord Imperial Uncle knew about it but did not report it, even shielding and condoning him." The Emperor's face darkened. "Zhao Cheng, is this true?" Zhao Cheng trembled all over, not daring to speak. The officials also whispered among themselves, looking at Zhao Cheng with eyes full of disdain. The Emperor snorted coldly. "Guards, immediately investigate Zhao Cheng's nephew and Zhao Cheng himself. If true, punish them severely without mercy. Your Majesty, spare me." Zhao Cheng was so scared he knelt on the ground begging for mercy. "I know I was wrong. I'll never dare do it again." The Emperor ignored him and continued, "Shen Qing is right. Why can't a woman serve the country? Shen Qing has performed meritorious service for the nation. Not only will I not punish her, but I shall also reward her heavily. From this day forth, Shen Qing is promoted to Grand Tutor to the Crown Prince, fully authorized to assist the heir apparent in handling court affairs. This subject, thanks Your Majesty for your grace." I knelt down to give thanks, my heart swelling with excitement. Zhao Cheng looked at me, his eyes full of resentment. Yet he was powerless to do anything. The officials also cast admiring glances at me, from the disdain of the censor-in-chief, to the difficulties created by the Minister of Revenue, and then to the suppression by the Empress and the frame-up by the imperial uncle. I turned danger into safety, time and again, rising step by step. All of this relied on my own ability and courage. I am no longer that abandoned bride, no longer that woman of the inner residence who let others bully her. I am the commandery Princess Jing'an, the grand tutor to the crown prince, a woman who can hold her own in the royal court. On the day of the investiture ceremony, the grandeur was unprecedented. Xiao Jingyuan wore the ceremonial robes of the crown prince, accepting the obeisance of the officials, looking high-spirited. I stood beside him, wearing the official robes of the grand tutor to the crown prince, with a solemn expression. After the ceremony, Xiao Jingyuan looked at me, his eyes gentle. Grand Tutor Shen, from now on, I will stand side by side with you to create a prosperous age together. I looked at him and nodded solemnly. Your humble subject will surely spare no effort, until my dying day. Just then, Samanon came to reporting to the crown prince, Grand Tutor Shen, Lu Zhanting is making a scene outside the palace gates, saying he wants to see Grand Tutor Shen. Lu Zhanting? I sneered inwardly. After being demoted to a commoner, he had been behaving himself. Why did he suddenly come to make trouble at the palace gates today? Bring him in, Xiao Jingyuan said in a deep voice. Soon, Lu Zhanting was brought in. He was dressed in tattered clothes, his hair was disheveled, his face was covered in stubble, and his eyes were filled with madness. Shen Qing, you bitch. You are the one who ruined me. You ruined Raoer. I am going to kill you. Saying that, he charged towards me. The guards immediately stepped forward and pinned him to the ground. I looked at him, my eyes cold. Lu Zhanting, you were a poor judge of character yourself, condoning Lu Ru's collusion with the enemy and treason. That you ended up like this today is your own doing. What does it have to do with me? If it weren't for you, how would I have been demoted to a commoner? How would Raoer have died? Lu Zhanting roared. I am going to kill you, to avenge Raoer. Lu Ru colluded with the enemy and betrayed the country. She deserved to die. My tone was icy. If you dare spout nonsense again, don't blame me for showing no mercy. Xiao Jingyuan's face was grim. Lu Zhanting, do you realize your crime? You dared to cause a scene at the investiture ceremony and even tried to assassinate the crown prince's tutor. That makes your crime even worse. Crime even worse? I've long since lost everything. Lu Zhanting laughed maniacally. Shen Qing, don't get too smug. I won't let you off even as a ghost. Drag him away, Xiao Jingyuan said coldly. Throw him into the dungeon to await sentencing. The guards immediately dragged Lu Zhanting away, his screams gradually fading into the distance. I watched his retreating figure, my heart feeling not a single ripple. Lu Zhanting, this is the end you deserve. The grievances of the past life end here. From now on, I will never waste another thought on you. After the investiture ceremony ended, Xiao Jingyuan looked at me with a gentle gaze. Grand Tutor Shen, today's events must have frightened you. Your Highness need not worry. I am fine, I said faintly. I know that you have suffered many grievances over these years, Xiao Jingyuan said softly. But from now on, I will protect you and won't let anyone bully you again. I looked up at him, feeling a warmth in my heart. In this cold imperial palace, in this court full of deceit and intrigue, it is truly good to have someone sincerely protecting me. Thank you, Your Highness, I said softly. In the days that followed, I assisted Xiao Jingyuan in handling state affairs, reforming corrupt practices, and appeasing the people, and the country gradually presented a scene of prosperity. And I, too, became the most legendary woman of the great Yan dynasty. From an abandoned bride to the crown prince's grand tutor, my story spread through every street and alley, becoming a role model for countless women. But I knew that this was not the end yet. My life still had a longer road to travel, and Xiao Jingyuan would be my most important partner on this journey. On this day, I was processing official documents when Xiao Jingyuan walked in, holding a memorial in his hand. Grand Tutor Shen, take a look at this. He handed the memorial to me. I took the memorial, scanned it quickly, and my eyes lit up. Your Highness, this is... The Bidi are willing to form a marriage alliance with our great Yan for eternal peace, Xiao Jingyuan said with a smile. Father Emperor's intention is for me to choose a princess or a commandery princess to marry over there. My heart stirred. Your Highness, who do you plan to choose? Xiao Jingyuan looked at me, his gaze gentle. In my heart, there is already a suitable candidate. I looked into his eyes, and a sudden hunch rose in my heart. Grand Tutor Shen, Xiao Jingyuan took a deep breath, his tone solemn. I have held you in my heart for a long time. I want you to be my crown princess, to stand by my side and govern this realm together. What do you say? I froze, looking at him in disbelief. Xiao Jingyuan, the current crown prince, was actually proposing to me? He looked at me, his eyes nervous yet expectant. Grand Tutor Shen, I know you've been through a lot and may no longer trust in love, but I promise you, from now on, I will be devoted only to you and protect you for the rest of your life. My eyes welled up with tears. In my past life, I was left battered and bruised by love, never daring to trust in it again. But in this life, Xiao Jingyuan's tenderness and protection had melted the hard ice in my heart, little by little. I looked at him and nodded solemnly. Your Highness, I am willing. A brilliant smile broke out on Xiao Jingyuan's face. He reached out and gently held my hand. Jinger, from now on, you and I, for a lifetime, shall never be parted. Looking at his warm smile, my heart felt incredibly firm. In this life, I not only got my revenge, but also found someone truly worth cherishing. Those who once bullied me, those who looked down on me, had all become things of the past. My future was bright. The investiture ceremony for the crown princess was even more grand than that of the crown prince. I was wearing the magnificent ceremonial robes of the crown princess, adorned with a phoenix crown and cloud cape, receiving the homage of the officials. Xiao Jingyuan stood beside me, his eyes tender, holding my hand tightly. After the rites concluded, we ascended the city tower to receive the homage of the people. The commoners cheered and jumped for joy, their voices shaking heaven and earth. Long live your Highness the Crown Prince! Long live, long live, long live the Crown Princess! Long live, long live. Xiao Jingyuan lowered his head and chuckled softly in my ear. Does this dowry of mine catch my beloved subject's eye? I looked at him, smiling and nodding. Your Highness's dowry is this vast empire, this flourishing, prosperous age. This humble subject is very satisfied. Xiao Jingyuan laughed heartily and pulled me into his arms. Just 3 days after the crown princess's investiture ceremony, someone in the harem started acting up. Consort Shu showed up with a group of concubines, all dressed gorgeously, their eyes full of hostility. Consort Shu was Zhao Cheng's daughter and the Empress's niece. After Zhao Cheng's downfall, she lost her backer in the harem and had been simmering with rage all this time. Crown Princess, Consort Shu curtsied, her tone snide. We sisters heard your Highness was just invested, so we came specially to congratulate you. But I wonder, since your Highness comes from a military family and is a high court official, are you used to the rules of the harem yet? The concubines behind her chimed in. Yeah, the harem isn't like the court. It is not a place to throw your weight around. Your Highness had better start learning the harem etiquette soon. It wouldn't do to lose the royal family's face. I sat in the seat of honor, lifted my teacup for a sip, my gaze cold. That I can be the crown princess is because the emperor and the crown prince personally conferred the title. It is not for you lot to dictate. I naturally understand the rules of the harem, but I understand even better how to mind my own business. Unlike some people who just gather together to stir up trouble whenever they have nothing to do. Consort Shu's face sank. Is the crown princess referring to us? Whether I am or not, you know clearly in your hearts. I put down the teacup, me voice rising. Let me tell you, the Eastern Palace is the crown prince's territory, and it is also mine. Whoever dares to make waves here, I will absolutely not spare them. Consort Shu trembled with rage but dared not lash out. After all, I am the crown princess now, and I have the crown prince's backing. She gritted her teeth. What great airs the crown princess has. We sisters were just kindly reminding you. Since your highness doesn't appreciate it, then we won't bother you. After saying that, she led the concubines away with their tails between their legs, giving me a fierce glare as she left. Seeing me tell off Consort Shu, the servants quickly flattered me. Your highness, you are too formidable. Those concubines have been wanting to find fault for a long time, and now you've put them in their place. Just do your work quietly. No need to talk too much, I said faintly, knowing in my heart that Consort Shu would never let this go. Sure enough, not 2 days later, something happened. The pastries sent to me from the imperial kitchen were found to contain poison. The palace servant turned pale with fright, kneeling on the ground and kowtowing. Your highness, spare my life. This slave really doesn't know what happened. I looked at the blackened pastries on the plate, my gaze icy, clearly. Samanon was deliberately trying to frame me. Xiao Jingyuan rushed over immediately after hearing the news, his face gloomy enough to drip water. Investigate thoroughly for me. Who is so bold as to dare use poison in the East Palace? The guards acted immediately, and in less than half a day, they found the result. It was done by a palace maid by Consort Shu's side. The maid insisted that she wanted to harm me herself, and it had nothing to do with Consort Shu. I sneered. This trick to shift the blame and get away was too clumsy. Bring Consort Shu here, I said coldly. When Consort Shu was brought in, she was still playing innocent, Crown Princess. I wonder why you have summoned me. Look for yourself. I threw the poisoned pastries in front of her. Your maid poisoned me. You dare say you didn't know? Consort Shu's face turned pale, and she hurriedly knelt down. I really didn't know. It was this maid acting foolishly on her own. I beg your highness, the crown princess, to investigate clearly. Investigate? I stepped closer. Your maid is loyal only to you. If you didn't order it, would she dare risk the execution of her 9 generations to harm me? Consort Shu, don't think you can get away with this, just by playing innocent. Xiao Jingyuan's eyes were cold. Consort Shu, things have come to this. Yet you still dare to quibble. I see, you are tired of living. Consort Shu was trembling with fear, crying and begging for mercy. Your highness, spare my life. I really didn't put her up to this. Please believe me, your highness. Just then, the empress sent someone with a message telling me to spare Consort Shu, saying it was a matter of the royal family's face. After all, I sneered. The royal family's face is enough to let a murderer walk free. Tell the empress, I said coldly to the messenger. Plotting to murder the crown princess is a capital crime. By law, it is punishable by death. There is no room for mercy. The messenger's expression changed. Not daring to say another word, he hurriedly went back to report. Consort Shu panicked completely, slumping to the ground, her face ashen. Your highness, please spare me. I won't dare do it again. Too late, I said coldly. Throw her into the cold palace. Imprisoned for life. That maid beat her to death on the spot. The guards acted immediately. Consort Shu was dragged away screaming, her voice sounding utterly wretched. The surrounding palace servants were so scared, they dared not breathe, looking at me with eyes full of awe. Xiao Jingyuan walked over to me and held my hand. Chinger, well done. That is exactly how it should be. Otherwise people will always dare to bully you. I just don't want people to think the Eastern Palace is easy to push around, I said softly. After this incident, no one in the harem dared to look for trouble again. Everyone behaved themselves, but I knew the Empress was still there, and she would never let me off. That day, the Empress summoned me to Cunning Palace for a banquet, saying it was to calm my nerves. I knew clearly in my heart that this was a Hongmen banquet, but I still had to go. The banquet at Cunning Palace was sumptuous. The Empress sat in the seat of honor with a fake smile. Crown Princess. Consort Shu was ignorant before and gave you a fright. Today, I have specially hosted this banquet to make amends to you. Your Majesty is too polite, I said indifferently, looking warily at the food on the table. The Empress personally poured me a cup of wine. Crown Princess, drink this wine, and we'll turn the page on what happened before. As the wine glass was handed to me, I could smell a hint of a strange scent. There is something wrong with this wine. I raised my hand, pretending to accidentally knock over the wine glass. The wine spilled on the ground, instantly sending up white smoke. The whole room was in an uproar. The Empress's face changed abruptly, forcing herself to appear calm. What is going on, Your Majesty? My eyes were cold. Are you trying to poison me with this glass of wine? The Empress panicked. No, I didn't know. Summoning must be framing me. Framed. I sneered. You arranged the banquet, you poured the wine, and you still want to deny it. I turned to look at the guards behind me. Seize everyone from Cunning Palace and investigate this thoroughly. The guards immediately took action, and the Empress trembled with rage. Shen Qing, you dare. I am the Empress. So what if you are the Empress? Plotting to murder the Crown Princess is punishable just the same. My tone was firm. I will definitely report today's matter to the Emperor and let His Majesty decide. Just then, the Emperor and Xiao Jingyuan rushed over. It turned out I was well prepared. Before setting out, I had someone notify Xiao Jingyuan to guard against the unexpected. Seeing the white smoke on the ground and the Empress's flustered look, the Emperor's expression turned grave. Empress, what exactly is going on here? The Empress was so terrified she knelt to beg for mercy. Your Majesty, I am innocent. It was Shen Qing who framed me, innocent. I took out the evidence I had prepared in advance. This is the confession from a eunuch in Cunning Palace. He says the Empress has long wanted to harm me and ordered him to put poison in the wine. The evidence is irrefutable. Do you still want to deny it? After reading the confession, the Emperor slammed his fist on the table in rage. You poisonous woman, Jingyuan is your biological son, and Shen Qing is the Crown Princess, yet you actually wanted to harm her. Do you have no regard for me or the imperial family? The Empress collapsed to the ground, unable to speak. Xiao Jingyuan's gaze was icy. Mother, you have disappointed me too much. The Emperor snorted coldly. Guards, depose the Empress, banish her to the cold palace, and confine her for life. The guards immediately dragged the Empress away. She cried and shouted, but no one paid her any heed. With the Empress and Consort Shu dealt with, the harem was finally completely peaceful. My prestige in the harem was getting higher and higher. The palace servants were in awe of me, the concubines didn't dare provoke me, and even the Emperor praised me endlessly. That day, I was dealing with affairs in the Eastern Palace when Xiao Jingyuan ran in excitedly. Chinger, good news. The Bidi have not only withdrawn their troops, but also sent a huge amount of tribute and are willing to submit to our great Yan. My heart leaped with joy. That is wonderful. Now the people can live and work in peace. Xiao Jingyuan hugged me. This is all you're doing. If it weren't for your previous achievements in the Ministry of War, the Bidi wouldn't be so well behaved. It is our shared achievement, I said with a smile. Days passed, and my relationship with Xiao Jingyuan grew stronger, while the imperial court became increasingly stable. The emperor's health was gradually failing, so he handed more government affairs over to Xiao Jingyuan to handle, while I assisted by his side. With ruler and ministers of one mind, the people were at peace. That day, the emperor suddenly summoned us to the palace. His face haggard. Qingzhi, my days are numbered. I have decided to pass the throne to you tomorrow, and let you ascend as emperor. Xiao Jingyuan and I were both stunned and hurriedly knelt on the ground. Father Emperor. Stand up, the emperor sighed. I believe in you too. You will definitely be able to govern Great Yan better. Qing'er, I leave Jingyuan to you. You two must be of one heart and mind to create a prosperous age together. We obey the imperial decree. We responded in unison. The next day, the ascension ceremony was held, and the grandeur was unprecedented. Xiao Jingyuan, clad in dragon robes, ascended the throne as emperor, accepting the homage of the officials and the cheers of the people. I, clad in phoenix robes, stood by his side, becoming the empress of the Great Yan dynasty. After the ceremony, we ascended the city tower, looking down at the cheering commoners, our hearts filled with emotion. Xiao Jingyuan held my hand. Qing'er from now on, we shall guard this vast land together. I looked at him, smiling and nodding. All right. After ascending the throne, Xiao Jingyuan reformed corrupt governance, reduced taxes, appeased the displaced, and vigorously developed agriculture and commerce. I assisted him from the inner palace, managing harem affairs, while also frequently participating in court politics and offering him counsel. The ministers initially had objections, feeling that women shouldn't interfere in state affairs, but seeing that my suggestions were effective and the people were living in peace and contentment, they gradually accepted me. One day, after Xiao Jingyuan and I finished handling court affairs, we sat in the imperial garden admiring the flowers. Xiao Jingyuan looked at me, his eyes gentle. Qing'er, do you remember the day of the grand wedding, when you publicly rejected the marriage? I smiled. Of course I remember. That was the turning point of my life. If you hadn't rejected the marriage that day, we wouldn't be where we are today. Xiao Jingyuan sighed. Thank goodness I met you. I leaned into his embrace. I am also very fortunate to have met you. Just then, a palace servant came to reporting to your majesty and the empress. Lu Zhanting is critically ill in the imperial prison. He won't last much longer. My gaze was calm, without the slightest ripple. Don't bother with him. This is the end he deserves. Xiao Jingyuan nodded. I'll listen to you. Not a few days later, Lu Zhanting died in the imperial prison, with no one caring. That once arrogant General Zhengguo finally ended up like this. Mon could only say he brought it upon himself. Days passed, and the Great Yan dynasty grew increasingly prosperous. The people lived in peace and contentment. The borders were stable, a scene of a flourishing age. Xiao Jingyuan and I also had a child. A son. He was clever and bright, and we doted on him dearly. On this day, I took our child and ascended the city tower with Xiao Jingyuan, looking down at the bustling capital below. My heart felt incredibly satisfied. Xiao Jingyuan held me, whispering softly, Qing'er, this vast empire belongs to you, and to our child as well. I smiled and said, having you and this prosperous age is enough. In my previous life, I endured humiliation and bore heavy burdens, dying in deep sorrow. In this life, I defied the heavens to change my fate and lived out my own brilliance. From an abandoned bride to the empress, I won everything with my own 2 hands.